Hello and welcome to Nina's Political Minute. I just wanted to say a couple things today about Justice Minister Peter Mackay's allegedly discriminatory remarks. So if you're uninformed on the issue of Peter Mackay, tisk tisk. Now I'm one to talk, I really haven't been keeping up with the news that well lately, but this is one story that just kind of stuck out to me and disturbed me a little bit. So Mackay came under fire earlier last week when he was making a speech to a group of lawyers. It was a private conference, so the tape of the audio recording of this actually hasn't been released, which really makes this difficult to prove exactly what he said. It's a lot of hearsay and it's his word against theirs. There was a question put to Peter Mackay, the Justice Minister, just asking a question. I think basically it was about the problem, so-called, of the lack of women in Supreme Court judge roles. So Mackay basically said that a lot of women were likely reluctant to take these roles because they would have to spend a lot of time traveling and away from their children. In a separate series of statements, he made a comment about his wife being very close and having a very close bond with their 1.5-year-old son. This was linked together by the antagonistic lawyers and the media, and has just become this big thing. Interestingly enough, women make up over 1/3 of judges in Canada and 40% of lawyers. These are not bad ratios, really, if we're talking about having equality. Perhaps, and I'm sure the liberal media has not given this consideration, but perhaps Mackay is right that women simply do not prefer to hold these kind of jobs, especially if they're mothers, and that is a very special calling, I would say. So the CBC headline on June 24th said, "Peter Mackay lauds moms for changing diapers, dads for molding minds in holiday messages." So apparently, on Mother's Day and Father's Day, Mackay, or rather his female secretary, wrote messages really lauding the mothers and fathers who worked for him in his office, and according to the CBC, the messages were very different. Now, for one thing, I'd just like to say mothers and fathers are different. Yes, they share a lot of roles, but as Mackay rightly said, mothers do share a very special bond with their children, and a lot of them desire to spend more time with them, especially when they're very young. So I'll just read a little section of Mackay's Mother's Day email. So he congratulated the staffers who have 2 full-time jobs and who are dedicated moms and caregivers around the clock. By the time many of you have arrived at the office in the morning, you've already changed diapers, packed lunches, run after school buses, dropped kids off at daycare, taken care of an aging loved one, and maybe even thought about dinner. Yet you come to work every morning, ready to make your contribution as a public servant for the benefit of all Canadians and their families. So, yeah, I would just want to say on that, in some ways that's sad, that women are required, in many cases, to take on all those roles, and often it's because the father has abdicated his role. You know, the role of women as mothers is probably the most important role there is in society. You know, a daycare is not a substitute to that. I know it's necessary in some circumstances, but it really, what Mackay said in that email, and admittedly it was not his authorship, but he did authorize it, it's true. It's just a reporting of what many mothers do every day. Of course, this is a great political move for Trudeau and Tom Mulcair. Tom Mulcair has called for Peter Mackay to step down, or for Harper to essentially fire him, and although there may be other things that I wouldn't agree with that Peter Mackay has done, do you know what? This is the most ridiculous thing to fire him over. It's just ridiculous. Mackay is describing what is. He's not trying to fit anyone into those roles. I'd like to say a little bit about Mackay's wife. She just recently wrote an open letter in response to criticism about Mackay's statements. Her name is Nazanin Afshin-Jam Mackay. They were married in 2012 and they have one son who's 18 months old. So Nazanin wrote this open letter. She is quite the amazing and well-accomplished woman. So Nazanin graduated from UBC with degrees in political science and international relations. She's used those degrees to start her own foundation. She defends women in different countries as well as in Canada. She's launched protests against Ahmadinejad and the government in Iran, and done a lot of work to fight against child executions. So I'll just read a little bit of Nazanin's letter here. So she's basically saying that this story is simply feeding the 24-hour news cycle, National Enquirer, TMZ mentality. But I would like to believe that in Canada there would at least be a minimal amount of required fact-checking. In this case, the Toronto Star found it easier to spin out a story quickly, and then it is followed by other publications rushing to mimic the story. I wonder if the people who are refusing to release the transcripts fear they have slandered my husband. So I think she's very well suited and in a good position to be listened to on this issue, and I think perhaps because of this, the lawyers and media who initiated this whole fiasco are going to be in a bit of a difficult position. So essentially, Nazanin has just said in her letter that she's decided to stay home with her son, and that Mackay was right in his statements about her closeness to their child and her desire to be at home and nurture him. She said in body, mind, and soul, and I think this is really an admirable thing. I'm glad she's stood up for this. She's definitely dedicated to her work and wants to continue that, but more so, she's dedicated to their son. And she also said that although Peter Mackay works 16-hour days, he comes home and contributes in changing diapers and mowing the lawn, doing cleaning, and caring for their son. Peter Mackay has been accused of attacking diversity. I mean, really? Diversity. To me, what he's saying is defending the right for women to be different. If a woman desires to stay at home with her children, just be a homemaker. I really admire my own mom, who has been that for almost her whole married life and has always been there for me. She has inspired me. Yes, I'm going for my political science degree. I've considered law in the past, but you know, honestly, if I have children one day, I would probably make the exact same decision Nazanin made, and I wouldn't be above just staying home with my children, being there to teach them and nurture them, inspire them, and equip them. Anyways, I just wanted to bring this issue to your attention. Let me know what you think. I didn't cover everything, but I would really encourage you to read Nazanin's letter, watch a little bit of the CBC coverage. Keep in mind that they don't have a transcript or an audio recording of what actually went down at this lawyer meeting. But yeah, do your own research, come to your own conclusions, and don't let the media or politics or society sway your own convictions.